Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
I'm going to call this meeting of the Commissioners Court to order, and I'd like to have just a minute to briefly have an introduction to all of you. My name is Richard Butler. Karnes County native. I grew up here until I was 10 years old, and at which time we moved up to San Antonio. My mom and dad were Ted and Ann Butler. Mom's still living. My dad passed away recently. Went to high school in San Antonio, went to law school and undergrad at Bethel University up in Waco. And after I got out, I decided I wanted to live in a small town. To be honest with you, there weren't many opportunities here in Karnes County at the time. And I located over in Crow, Texas. And practiced law there for a firm called Dietz & Butler for about 11 years. Enjoyed my time in Crow. Got an opportunity to go in with a real nice firm in San Antonio in 1989. So that's what I did. Went out and moved my family, packed up and moved to San Antonio. Lived there and practiced law, mostly doing what we call commercial litigation, business lawsuits of one kind or another. Sometimes I'm plaintiff, sometimes I'm defendant. It's a mixture. Did that and kept my hands in oil and gas law as well until 2010. I finally decided and talked my wife into the fact that I needed to move back to the ranch. And so we packed up and moved and have been living on the ranch ever since. I thought I'd set up a little small country law practice here in Karnes County. And I didn't realize at the time so many people who were the stalwarts of legal practice in Karnes County were going to be retiring at one time, but that basically happened. And we ended up with a boatload of work. I've got my son, Clinton Butler, coming down to go to work for me. 2012, we rejoined the firm of Langley Benack. We're their Karnes County office now, and we've got another attorney working with us named Elizabeth Kopetsky. With all that going on, I felt like when the commissioners called on me and asked me if I would step in, if I was interested in stepping in on this job, my initial reaction was that I did not want to do it. And then I started thinking about it. I had a unique opportunity in my life to try to serve people in Karnes County at a time when I think people in Karnes County need to try to step in and help things out. So I felt, after thinking overnight and talking to my wife, we decided to go for it. And so here I am. My perception of my job is to be a service to the people of this county, all the people of this county. I think every public servant in office of any kind ought to have that in mind. It's not so much that I have this authority or anything like that, it's that I'm here to serve. Now, in conducting that service, I have to exercise my judgment, I have to exercise my experience, things like that. So that to say that I'm going to be a servant of everybody in Karnes County doesn't mean I'm always going to agree with you. It doesn't mean that I'm always going to have the same viewpoint. But what it can mean, well, it does mean, is that I can treat all of your ideas with respect, I can listen to you, and I will treat you respectfully in this meeting and in any other meeting that we attend. That's my pledge to you, that I'm going to act that way to all of you and going to be receptive to your ideas like that. And I'm asking for also your pledge that we'll have orderly meetings and that the discourse and the discussion in these meetings will always be civil and always be respectful. In my practice as a trial attorney, I've been involved in some cases that take 2 years, 3 years before we ever get to trial. And during that entire period of time, I get sick of looking at and talking to the lawyer on the other side. and sometimes it's a whole slew of lawyers on the other side, and we're fiercely contesting legal issues and factual issues. It can be really, really tense. But I can tell you that the way I've practiced and the way I find that most attorneys practice is we go in there and we do our jobs and we treat each other in court with respect, and we fully vent our ideas and our thoughts, and at the end of the day we walk away with respect for each other, frequently as friends. And that's the kind of the model I expect us to use in this court. I think we can do that, and we can go on with the county's business in a respectful manner. I think when I said that all the county officials and officers are servants, I think all of you here are displaying the same kind of attitude. You're here to serve the people of the county as spokesmen for those people, as well as the elected officials. And so I think we all have that duty and all have that obligation to go forward in this manner. So I want to thank you for being here, and I look forward to my brief tenure of 8 months and so many weeks as being something that the Karnes County people can look back on and say, we made progress during that period of time. So thank you very much for your attendance. I think at this point in time I have to make a roll call, or somebody does, of the commission. Okay, well that wasn't a welcome. It was an introduction and a welcome. As far as the roll call, Commissioner Yower? Here. Commissioner Rosales? Here. Commissioner Dutton? Here, sir. And Commissioner Schindel? Here. And I'm County Judge Richard Butler, and I'm here as well. So we're all here. Now let's stand for opening prayer and the pledge. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to come and to serve the people of this county. We thank you for the interest of the people of this county and the opportunities we've all been given to serve all the people of our county. And may we conduct ourselves in a way that makes you proud. In your name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That won't be the first thing I'm sure, or the last. We're going to defer reading of the minutes. Right now we want to have the citizens to be heard section. And what I would like to do, this is just my initial thought on how we'll do this in future meetings, but what I'd like to do is to have everyone who has a discussion they would want to make regarding any agenda item to go ahead and be heard at this time. I think my initial thought is, and I'll be subject to change if it doesn't work out correctly, but my initial thought is if we can have those heard up front, it'll make the completion of the session a little easier to do. So if you would, let's see. I'm going to look and see how many people we have that have requested time. And it's several. First one is call Mr. Brish, Sam Paul Brish.
Judge, Commissioners, I come before you representing the Karnes County Soil and Water Conservation District. We wish to proclaim the week of April the 27th to May the 4th as Soil and Water Stewardship Week. We do this every year and get the Commissioners clerk to sign that proclamation. It goes into the paper. And if I can approach you, Judge, get you to sign this thing, I'd like for all the Commissioners to be involved in this picture also. Would you read it for us? Let me read the proclamation. Thank you, Pete. Whereas fertile soil and clean water provide us with our daily sustenance, and whereas effective conservation practices have helped provide us a rich standard of living, and whereas our security depends upon healthy soil and clean water, and whereas stewardship calls for each person to help conserve these precious resources, therefore I do hereby proclaim April 27th to May the 4th of 2014 Soil and Water Stewardship Week, and it will be signed by the judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was not a matter on the agenda. It doesn't require any county expenditures. It doesn't involve, as far as I'm concerned, any kind of controversial topic. So I'd like to have the parties and commissioners go ahead and sign on behalf of the county proclaiming it Soil and Water Stewardship Week.
Make a motion to declare that week soil stewardship.
All in favor? Any opposed? Next, Mr. Maurice Yarder on items 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28. Yarder?
Thank you, Your Honor. Commissioner Court. I'd like to address the items 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28 regarding change orders by Lorraine Davy and Spear Architects. We've had, let me understand in front of here. We have these items. I'll try to be brief here, but I'd like to ask that the Commissioner Court take a more active role in these change orders that come from the architect. We've had an increase in the jail before they ever broke ground from $7 million to 11 with a $4.5 million increase. I'm concerned that the architecture firm has not had proper oversight, and I would like to ask the Commissioner Court to consider a forensic audit of the architects, especially when it comes to these change orders, and try to bring these costs under control. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yarder. Mr. Yarder, will tell you this, that part of the commercial litigation I did for a lot of years was construction litigation. And so I have some familiarity with construction contracts, the relationship of the owner with the architect, change orders, all that stuff. I have just this weekend had a chance to read through the terms and conditions segments of the contract, and I'm going to look at the contract documents too, and this is both with the courthouse and with the jail, and I do intend to become familiar with the contract, become familiar with the issues that you're talking about, and visit with the architect about those things. And so I can't speak to how that's gone in the past, but I do have familiarity with all the issues you're talking about, and I intend to look at it and see if there are some issues that need to be addressed, okay? I'll give you that assurance.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Next, Shannon Hall regarding audio. Ms. Hall?
Good morning. I'm not sure where normally I stand here to speak, so it's a little different this morning, and it's really quiet in here this morning.
Wherever you're comfortable.
Well, it's relatively quiet in here this morning compared to some days when we're really full and really crowded on particular issues. I'd just like to remind the court that ever since we've moved into this building, there has been numerous people stand up and request an audio system, just basically a microphone at the podium. And, you know, we've actually personally looked into companies in San Antonio that offer that relatively inexpensively, just a podium with the audio so that we can hear. And we have difficulty hearing in the back when it's crowded. We have a difficulty hearing the commissioners, and people have difficulty hearing the people that are speaking. So that's just something that I'd like to have you all reconsider. I noted that there was a camera mounted in the back corner of the room, and I do know that y'all discussed it at budget time. They wanted an audio video package, and the commissioners voted against the video and voted that we needed just the audio. You discussed it again after the first of the year, and you came to the same conclusion that we needed audio. And I'd like for you to just consider that the citizenry would appreciate that so that we can hear better in the back. And please consider that when you're reevaluating what system you put in. And I hope you all have an input of what type of system you choose. Thank you.
I don't, I guess we're in something of an unusual situation in that the quarters we're currently in will not be, I guess, I presume, the long-term home of the Commissioner's Court. I assume the Commissioner's Court will have their hearings in the new county courtroom and the new courthouse whenever that gets finished. So what we're talking about is making a solution that will work for the time being, you know, while we're here. I know we have some kind of agenda item regarding the system, the audio-visual system that's in here, and maybe it's included in that. But I understand what you're saying, and we should be able to do at least a temporary fix on that wouldn't be that expensive, I would assume. Okay, great. All right. Very good. Those are the only citizen inputs that I have received requests for. I don't believe there's anybody else. All right. We'll then go on to the agenda and have discussion among the commissioners and me about the agenda items. First agenda item number 7 is to discuss, consider, act, adopting Karnes County Personnel Manual, Policy Manual, revised February 2014. The Commissioner's Court has been approved, or has been provided a printed formatted copy of Karnes County Personnel Policy Manual for their review and adoption. And Shelby, you're the one who authored this. Could you explain to us what you got?
Yes, sir. One thing, I misspelled manual. I made it Manuel.
Oh, okay.
My spell check didn't work. Back in, started getting by January, so we started trying to upgrade and revise the policy. TAC came down, Mary Sanchez Thompson. She guided the county, some of the department heads and this committee through possible changes that we needed to make especially the federal changes. That was done by Malone, she's our treasurer as well as the human resource person came to the court, and it was really in a formatted presentation like this manual is today. And we approved it, and then everybody was given a manual. I don't know if you ever got one. You can have my copy.
Okay.
Anyway, all it was, I put that on there so we could at least adopt this manual. We've adopted it once, but it gets us on the same, it's in a revised copy for now. I eventually want it to be put onto the website. There's a lot more work that needs to go into this manual, but it's just, it's a good start. And that's the only thing, that's why I put that on there. I remember, Pete, I think you wanted to see it better in a formatted, manner. And it passed, I think, on a 3-2 vote at the time, but nevertheless, I want to give everybody an opportunity. Everybody should have gotten their copy. And I just want everybody to understand that, you know, this is what we'll be going by now, and then again, it's still a work in progress. It'll change again, it'll change more time. It needs to be a lot more meat and potatoes put into that, right?
Chevy, is this manual, is there currently Karnes County Personnel Policy Manual before this one?
Yes.
Is there one in effect right now?
Yes.
Okay. And do you believe this one will need to be studied, perhaps revised? In other words, it's not quite a finished product.
Well, some may consider it finished, some, but I think as a county as a whole, we need to, there's a lot more things that could go into it to protect the county and the employees. And kind of give them more transparency on how policy transforms for operating of the county.
I personally haven't had a chance to look at it, and I'm sure the work you've done on it is fine. You've gotten the assistance of TAC, but I can't really comment on it yet because I haven't had a chance to study it. And I was even going to review it with one of the personnel and employment law specialists at our firm. He won't charge me anything. He just have him look at it with me and see what he thinks.
All I'm saying is that this currently will be the policy that's enforced now.
Okay.
But it's still, it's not to say that it needs to be continually revised. This is the last revision as of March of February 2014 is the last revision.
All right.
So we can still go through it and, as we need to, enhance it as commissioners and then the county employees do.
Commissioners, you want to comment on something?
Well, I think in talking to her, the county attorney, he said that he thinks it needs to review it before I don't think we need to make any motion to accept it. I think we'd be working by it because it's been accepted.
Yeah.
So we don't need to do anything, but it does need some more revisions.
Okay.
We'd like you to look at it too, with your expert help.
But I just want everybody to understand that this is the policy that's in place at this time.
Any other comments? All right, so we're not going to think about it.
Take no action on
No action.
No action.
So that's the policy.
I think we'll have to review the manual and see if we do need to make any modifications to it as soon as possible. And we'll get our personnel policy out there before we put it on the website, and that needs to be done pretty expeditiously. I'll take a look at it real quick. Okay, number 8, discuss replacement of Karnes County Emergency Management Coordinator due to resignation of David Jalopka, who is serving as Karnes County Emergency Management Coordinator. Shelby, you're the author of that.
Judge, we have to, by statute, you are the emergency manager for the county, and you have the authorization to appoint or however the court wishes to help you appoint a coordinator who actually is your, as I say, boots on the ground that responds to all these events that take place, as well as making sure that the policy, the the annexes and the basic operational plan are up to date, and other issues that come up with Government Division of Emergency Management. That being said, we have to fill out a governor's got a form that's called DEM 147, DEM 147. That's appointment of the county judge as the emergency operations manager. And there's 2 blocks in there, and I tried to print that out this morning, and I didn't, but because I couldn't get it to print. But there's a form, there's 2 blocks in there that you choose to appoint somebody or you choose not to appoint somebody. And the one, if you say you choose not to appoint somebody this time, then you're assuming all the responsibilities of the emergency management. Karnes County does emergency management for cities of Karnes City, Runge, Falls City, and Kennedy, but I think Dwayne DeBose is picking up some of those duties for Kennedy. This is kind of personal for me because when I was emergency management coordinator, we were in a kind of disarray. Plans were expiring, and got them all up to date. I just renewed them last year, so we're good to 2015, 16. So the emergency operation plan and all the annexes that affect that plan need to be reviewed every 5 years. So we're starting our second year with that.
Was this a salary position that David
It
occupied?
was a part-time position, and it was I think it was paid like $14,000 a year.
15,000 and some odd.
Something about dollars.
Okay.
But the last one that was replaced, the judge put it in the paper, and we had some people come in and interview, and she made the selection based on her. I think there might be some people in the community that are interested. Look, lately we've had some issues, and Dwayne's been trying to, the sheriff and his staff have been trying to do that, and then they've called me, and I try to help them along the way, different things, respond out to see what they need to do, if anything at all. But they've been acting as good mention, and they're just going as a resource person.
How long had David been in that position?
A little over a year.
About 15 months.
But my question is, we need to get you, I've been talking with the DPS has been calling me, and they want to know if we appointed anybody yet, and you still need to get yourself on that form, get that turned in the officer. And what's another thing
Where are
about
we gonna find out about, how do we find out about potential replacements?
we can advertise, we can basically, you know, somebody that you feel that can be a qualified, or you feel that can handle the job, you could appoint somebody outright.
Why don't, you in particular have a lot of experience with emergency management and things like that. Why don't you let me know if anybody you think that might be qualified, and if we can't develop a good list of candidates that way, let's advertise.
Because other than that, you can make an appointment, you can go ahead and delegate that job to another department and have that person assume those duties as needed. We can talk about it later, but I just want you to know that we need to get this is something to put on the radar.
Well, what other department would I designate?
You could have somebody within the sheriff's office, you could probably have the EMS person do that. And I'm not sure who else you could, I mean, any department that has anything to do with response to emergency.
Okay. Is the advertising of the position something that needs approval by the commission?
Yes, because there'll be money to be expended for the advertising. We did that last time, 2 weeks.
Yes.
Let's do this. See if y'all can develop, anybody's got any ideas.
I've got the job descriptions that I have already for that.
Let's see if we can develop some ideas beforehand, see if we have to go to advertising, or if there's a acceptable candidate just out there. And we'll just pick one.
But somebody's going to be available 24, pretty much 24/7.
Yes.
Commissioners, for now, we will take care of all of the applicants that we have. I will make sure we keep up a report as far as the skills, whatever needs to be done, on the side. For now.
Thanks, Sheriff. Okay. Anything else? All right.
Sir, I'd like to make a recommendation that whoever might be hired at that position, even though it reports directly to you as the county judge, that position be actually working directly out of the sheriff's office, because in case of an emergency, that's going to be your communication center, and that's going to be the hub of where all the efforts to take care of that emergency are going to actually originate from, in that they deal with essentially emergency situations virtually on a daily basis. It would probably be best, it would take that off of your office directly and just have that position moved to the sheriff's office.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. I think rather than submitting it to advertising position, we'll see if we can make an appropriate appointment or designation. Okay? Discuss report on Karnes County EMS facility. Is Brian Daly here? Brian?
Good morning, Commissioners. As the court is aware, we've been working with Karnes County on helping with the EMS building. We helped get the trailer in place to be able to have good housing for the staff. And then if you go to the second page of the handout that I sent you, we had come up with a conceptual plan to be able to develop a new EMS building for you. And we presented that back in July of last year. That was predicated upon Road and Bridge being able to move, and they obviously have not been able to move. So we had an idea to go ahead and develop a shell building, and you'll see the trailer over on the left side of the sheet in a shell building for storage of the ambulances in the meantime, with the understanding that we would just convert that shell building into some type of either a training room or an exercise room or something that can be used by the county. As we started developing that shell building and looking at the cost, and by the time we put bathrooms in and other things that were requested, the cost of that ended up being much higher than the original, just put a slab and put a metal building in. And so then we came back to the court and discussed going ahead and using that shell building as your permanent ambulance portion of your new EMS building, which of course required larger doors and raising the height of the building and some additional storage and things. We developed those plans, and our civil engineer ran into a couple of problems in the drainage and with TxDOT on getting a driveway easement, or a driveway, excuse me, to come into that shell building, because you can see how tight the site is. If you go to the first page, and north is oriented north on here with Main Street at the top of the sheet. You can see in orange the existing building which needs to be demolished, and then you can see in blue we've highlighted what TxDOT and what the handicap task is requiring for space for handicap spaces, and TxDOT for a driveway approach, and then in red is the new building, and to the right of that long rectangle is your existing trailer. The TxDOT did finally, in the past couple weeks, grant a driveway permit, but it was they don't want to give you a driveway permit for that driveway. And so So, and then there's drainage issues. This is the lowest part of the site, so if we can move the building over, we can save money on fill material and grading. So when I was talking to Commissioner Dubnik about this, he had an idea of maybe being able to demolish the existing building so that we can move this building over, because then we can use the existing driveway that you already have. You don't need another driveway permit. You don't need another driveway approach. We will have to do some upgrades to it because you know it's not in the greatest shape, but at least we can reuse that portion. Moving that building over also will allow us to not have to do as much cut and fill, or as much fill material, and make the grading a little bit less expensive. And then the other idea is if there was any chance that Road and Bridge, if you found any property for Road and Bridge, if we could move Road and Bridge out. If you look again at the second page, the very best place to put that building is where Road and Bridge is, because then you have a lot of room for future growth. Having the building all the way over on the left side where we have it now is your smallest portion and your narrowest portion in depth of your property. The best place to put that building is going to be over closer to where Road and Bridge is. So we're just coming to you to present this information and find out what your thoughts are on at least being able to move the building over to the west where the existing building is, maybe be able to demolish that and put up a carport, and maybe just even rent a storage area, a storage building for them. Or if there's a chance, I know there's been discussion of trying to find property for Road and Bridge. If there's a chance Road and Bridge may be able to be relocated, move it all the way over, which really is going to be the best solution for the county and for future.
I still think that the building needs to go right where the old one is. And the EMS administrator here, I've been trying to eventually, I don't see much growth that's going to happen for EMS within this one facility. I look for EMS to be separated eventually in Karnes City and in Kennedy, to have both response times for the county, be able to work out of those offices that way, because currently it's eventually going to have to go to 2 full-time crews anyway, because they're getting slammed with calls. You're averaging 7 to 10 calls a day, and some days they could use another ambulance just to keep up with what else is going on. But I really think, and I was talking with Dennis, that if we could put the building right where it is now, just create a shell, just a carport to put the units in, and we can start this year pouring the slab, and the units under a little carport thing would just, and you can plug them in, so they're always maintained, they're cool, the air conditioners are running all the time like that, and that'll take care of the inside of the boxes. The medication can be put inside the trailer. They can store that under control in a climate control area, and the other stuff we can possibly get like a little storage box, put some of the supplies in there to keep them out of the weather. Other than that, it doesn't have to be nothing really big, nothing that elaborate, just something that you pull the units in. You've got a sleeping quarters and a day room and an office, and that's it. But Dennis, you got anything you want to say about this?
No, that's about it. I mean, like you said, the growth there, you're not going to want to put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, when it comes to EMS. We do have to expand later on. We're going to need to expand somewhere like over here in Karnes City, where your response times throughout the county are better. My main concern is that this is something that we need to get now. I mean, we can't wait another 6-8 months just to start this project, because the building that we're in now is falling down. I mean, the panels are falling out of the ceiling, which are 4x8 sheets of sheetrock. When it rains more than a half inch, we get a half inch of water that runs through our building. Right now everything we own is up on pallets just to keep it from getting wet. And when it does get wet, then we have a dry out period where they're talking about, and there's no telling how much black mold, green mold, whatever colored mold you want growing in that place. And you know, I excuse me, I hate to venture the fact that when we do start getting some severe weather in the springtime, that building's even going to stay together for some of those severe weather events. And I would hate to lose, you know, $500,000 worth of equipment to that building. So, you know, my deal is it's just something that we've got to do now. And that's about all. But I'm with Shelby. We've talked a lot. We both think that the best spot for that building would be where the existing building's at. Do something temporary right now just to keep the trucks out of the sun, to protect the exteriors. The interiors they're all plugged in. They're climate controlled on the inside.
How does that compare with what you were proposing?
That's one of the options that, yes, that I am proposing, is to go ahead and locating it where we were being forced to put it because we had to keep the existing building in place until the new one was built is not economical, and it's not the best option for the county. I like the idea of either one of those options. Go ahead and put the new building where the existing building is. We'll probably have to move it back a little bit, but and then we're not dependent upon Road and Bridge whether or not they move, if they move, how soon they move. That's your most secure situation, and it helps us because again we don't need this driveway and this being the low point where we were having it being the low point of the site. It does not work well cost wise and it's not the best use of the site for you.
You're talking about where it's on this front page?
Yes, sir.
We
Yes.
have a new building located. You're talking about putting it over there where the existing ENS building is. Was the plan always to demolish that building?
Yes, but not until after the new building was built.
Okay.
So we were stuck. This was kind of the only place we could put it. But if we go ahead and demolish the building now and you know go through the scenario that Dennis and Commissioner Dubnik discussed, then we can revise our plans. We can not have to do this driveway permit. We won't have as much fill that we need. The farther west we go, the higher your ground and the better. But we can have our civil engineer evaluate the exact placement and work to reuse that existing driveway and get up over as far as we can.
Now, as far as erecting some sort of structure in the meantime to serve as the temporary housing for the EMS, I guess for the EMS vehicles.
So,
Is that what you were talking about? Okay. That versus, you know, obviously that causes some expense to be incurred, but apparently you're going to save some money on fill. Have you done a comparative analysis on the cost?
the cost of, I don't know if you do a carport, now it all depends, you know, if this just stays a carport and you're going to need to get power, I don't know what the power will be, but if it's just a carport without a bathroom, without running water, I mean, that's a steam brew, that's where the costs start going up. And depending on if you can just let Road and Bridge prepare, you know, a caliche pad for you and actually have it set there. And the county just go ahead and buy a carport and put it in place, then buy a storage building and put it in place. The cost of that's going to be insignificant, I would think. The cost of saving just the driveway and the permit alone is to the tune of $15,000 to $20,000, and then the fill material, depending on how much you build, the fill material is probably to the tune of $60,000 to $70,000. So it's a lot of expense that you'd be saving. And I would recommend that the county just work with, you know, appoint somebody to just, I mean, you're going to be under, Blue Rhino, the cap for the county being allowed to spend some money would they be allowed to just go ahead and find the best deal for a carport and the best deal for a storage building and not have to go and advertise and not have us involved, just go get those, get Road and Bridge to help put a place to put that carport and just appoint someone from the county to negotiate the best deals there, get that done, and in the meantime we can be working on getting our civil engineer for that placement on that building. Now, you'll probably want us to be involved in developing demolition plans and going ahead and bidding out the demolition. We did do, when we had the people down here doing the asbestos on the courthouse, they didn't charge us anything to go over to the EMS and Road and Bridge and do that work except just the test results because they were already down here. So we knew this was going to be a factor, so we went ahead and to save money, we asked them to go ahead and do those. So we already have the asbestos report and there is no asbestos. So we're ready to be able to develop demolition plans to demolish that building now. And we can be...
And the demolition costs were already in the budget for...
Yes, sir, we had demolition costs in the budget.
Part of the
But
project.
But however, I mean, I do want to point out, though, that the budget, the amount of money that the county has in their budget for this year did not cover everything that we were looking at doing when this building got plumbing and all the things in it. So what we're looking at doing is doing a base bid, which is just plain slab and building, and then add in the bathroom and add in, additive alternate so that we can present to the court, this is what the cost is. Because we were at, let's see, I don't know if I brought my complete breakdown, but we were over the 200, I believe y'all had $200,000 in the budget. We were over $200,000 once the time we factored everything in.
We had like 400,000 because we expended some on the trailer and some of the other stuff that's come out of that, Rick.
Correct, but I've texted Michelle to ask her the total amount in the budget. I don't think it was as much as 400,000 for the EMS facility.
I don't think so.
I think that was combination of Road and Bridge and EMS.
Yeah. But essentially what you're going to have to do is demolition is going to have to be paid for. It was in our original budget, but I don't think you had enough money to cover what was in our original budget. So I don't want to mislead you and say, yes, it's in the budget. Yes, it's a yes and no question.
My plan with this year was to start this year with the monies we had for the budgeted monies, to utilize those funds that we budgeted this year. And then that would get us into the next budget cycle, which we could then go forward.
Yes, sir. And we could structure the bid so that we have a base bid and then additive alternates, and then that way you can say, okay, all we can afford is the foundation and the shell with our rough-in plumbing, and actually putting in the above-grade plumbing and other things, and the sheetrock walls will have to come next time, or maybe y'all could do it within, with...
Doing it that way, we're going to be able to alleviate his concerns that he's got a structure he's not going to be able to use.
Well,
Very soon, it's
Yes,
in
sir.
the line.
and that will take care of, I believe that will take care
Well,
of...
where we were thinking in the meantime was the temporary carport solution. Basically, the sun just will eat the paint off of those ambulances and the decals, and that's where the temporary carport comes in. Like I say, we plug those ambulances into a 30 amp shoreline, so the air conditioners and the heaters run in them constantly to maintain that level that the state says we have to have for our drugs and our IV fluids and whatnot. So, just the temporary carport would be a great solution, and some type of temporary storage for what we can't fit in our trailer house would that would alleviate most of our problems at this time until we can get the building finished.
Yes, you would have to have temporary storage, air conditioned space before we do demolition.
The temporary storage would not have to be air conditioned, Pete.
It will not.
No, sir. That's where we wouldn't put anything in there that would have to stay climate controlled. We could put that. We have enough room in our trailer house to put those climate controlled items. Yes, sir.
And I was thinking about, and we talked about putting that storage, that carport thing right close to the trailer as possible, so we won't have to run on new electricity. We could run off the shoreline we have there. And then once we start that, we get everything poured, get the other slab done, and then we can slowly start, being on our way to finishing that building. Eventually, if we do find another road and bridge facility, if it's here in Karnes City or on this end of the county, then yes, I think EMS could be maybe ask to put a unit there, so we'd have both sides of the county covered. That's pretty strong.
We have your report, we understand recommendations, what actions required by the commissioners?
There's no action on this item here, based on your just
Just
discussion.
a report.
We have action items for Lorraine to plan something for us, so it's just to instruct her what to plan, instruct her to plan for it. She is hard to plan something for our EMS, so
Okay.
I don't know if we need an action item just to change her direction.
I just need,
Does that
yes,
sound
sir.
correct?
All right. Do we need a motion to direct her or not?
Where's her today?
Herb?
It's right here.
Her? We're at item number 9. We don't have it on the agenda to make a motion. Do we need to make a motion to have her?
Can we put it on
Change the plan.
the middle of the month? Yeah.
Next Tuesday will be,
Next week. Next court.
10 days.
Let's do that.
And in the meantime, y'all can maybe just start researching the carports and things. And
Item number 10. Acknowledgement of applications for permits for water line permits for county right-of-way use, applications for county right-of-way use, applications for permit for county road entrance use, and voluntary maintenance and repair. Permits are already in use and are now updated. Need for all commissioners and county judges and county judges to be aware of the update and the fact that they are being used as our forms.
All it is I had Herb, he just updated them, and we put a couple clauses in there for like failure for them to come in and get a permit or whatever. We would be able to fine them between $2,500 or $2,500 depending on what they did. And then changing the pipeline bores from specifying what size, and then that goes with the fee on different sizes of pipes and things like that. And that's basically all we would change. And Herb said that everything would be fine. We advertised this in the newspaper for 2 weeks. All I did is I put that on there so the rest of us up here would understand and know what we're doing. That's all we needed, so just acknowledge it.
All right. Anything else on that? Permit. Number 12, discuss act upon setting amount of bond not to exceed $20,000 payable to the county judge for county elections administrator as provided in the Texas Election Code, section 31.040. One,
That's exactly as it reads. The Texas Election Code mandates that the elections administrator be bonded. The court has the discretion from anywhere from $1 up to $20,000, depending on what they feel their bond should be set at.
What did it say at now?
There is not a bond, that's why it's on here.
yeah,
Was there one in the past?
We haven't had an elections administration.
Okay.
10,000 suitable?
I would think so, yes.
that bond would be something we would be relying upon to pay costs if the elections administrator committed an error or omission that resulted in some sort of a claim, suit, something like that.
Yes.
The county will provide that bond for her, or she has to provide it herself?
And we provide it,
We provide it for her.
we just need to set an amount so it can be obtained.
I've heard, was there a motion that we set at $10,000?
I'll make that motion.
I second it.
All approved?
Aye.
Carried. Any opposed? 13, discuss audio-visual equipment installed in Commissioner's courtroom. System ordered and installed does not include audio amplification. Audio installed only records. One,
This equipment that's been installed by Business Information Systems, I am in the receipt of the invoice, and I'm sure they're going to be chomping pretty soon for payment. It is not what was discussed for the courtroom. You mentioned that you thought this would be a temporary courtroom. There has been discussion with the district judges that once the courthouse is finished and operations move back over there, this may be an alternate courtroom. So it may be still beneficial to install something more on a permanent basis. But as Ms. Hall mentioned, they need something so they can hear what's being discussed up here. This system only records and does the video and audio recording for purposes like posting on the web. Shelby can give you a little more information. He's talked to the gentleman out of San Marcos, it's the local rep.
I called this guy, name is Bob Mullins. He's based out of San Marcos, Luana said. And I asked him, what kind of system do we have? Because one day I pushed the monitor button on over there, and I saw everything. I saw this table on the monitor. So that camera that's in that corner is it streams to this table. There's only one camera. It's not on. And these mics back here were supposed to be the boundary mics, and whenever they heard us talking, it would report into that. It would transfer everything that was said into that to a computer and create a file of the meeting. And talking with this gentleman, he told me, he says, well, he said he never was told about a audio system. Said that he happened to come by one day, and they're on the buy board and all that stuff. So he was making his rounds with the county, and said that he was told that if he could get in a recording system because he wanted the meetings to be recorded. And I said, well, we're looking at we want a PA system. I mean, that was what we talked about. And the thing, he said, well, that's not the information he got, and this is what he got. You know, they put in. And in talking with him, he said, this is an agenda recording system, and Carol can add some of this information, that you would type in the agenda or insert the agenda into the computer, and then it would record everything, as well as every time there was a vote taken, each item would, you enter a note, and each item would have the meeting, who did what, who said what, and then there would be a record. They just put it out, then we'd have the minutes, and that'd be it. Plus, we could stream it to the public. So anyway, I've got a meeting set up with this guy. I told him this is not what we really wanted, and I've got a meeting set up with him on Thursday, April 3rd at 2 o'clock in this room. I asked Carol to be here because she is the keeper of the minutes, and to see what else we could do. I said, but if there's something, you could take this back and bring us come and give us a price on the audio system, a PA system that we needed, something that would be portable, Judge, so we could take it where we needed to go. Anyway, he was kind of surprised that he didn't get the right information to start with. He said, if I didn't know that, I would have never sold it to you. Well, I said, we hadn't paid for it yet, and we don't intend paying for it. That's not what we want.
That'd be my question, is who was he getting his information from? Who was authorizing the installation of it?
I think it was a previous judge. That's what he kind of led me to believe. But I'm going to find more information as we meet, because we were talking back on the phone. But anyway, he said this is the same system. He said they're using it in other courtrooms, courthouses, district courtrooms. They're putting a lot of these in there. Border Patrol's using that in their cars to talk to people. I mean, they interrogate people and stuff. They're taking, it's like a glorified note system in my book.
Shelby, the only thing that was approved by the commissioner court
I know what was
was
approved.
an audio system.
We know, I know.
That's
I know.
it.
Which that's my question. This invoice is to the attention of Barbara Shaw, so I'm guessing Barbara is the person that ordered it. The question is, this is not budgeted, so therefore, if it's kept, the court will have to amend the budget to be able to pay for it. I don't know how that will qualify because I don't see it as an emergency or unforeseen circumstance because we did specifically discuss a PA system for this room at the time of budget.
Did the Commissioners Court authorize the purchase of a audio system?
Yes,
Yeah, and then Judge Shaw just apparently ordered something else?
yes.
Okay. When's that contractor coming?
Third,
Thursday,
Wednesday the third. Thursday, Wednesday the third,
Thursday,
Third.
at 2.
at 2. But anyway, I told him he may have to take it back. I said, you know, I just was gonna put you on notice right now that you probably gonna have to take this stuff back. Or somehow, what you got here, convert that to a PA system for $4,900 of what we budgeted, I think, it was $4,300, something like that.
Judge Butler, at budget time, I did find an audio system that had table mics and a speaker, and it was also portable, so it could be taken to groundbreakings or whatever, and it was less than $2,500.
I found one too for 27, it was with a local guy, he could set everything up as well.
And does anybody here feel like it's necessary for us to be visually recorded?
As a matter of fact, Judge, that was specifically discussed in
Probably didn't want to, yeah. Yes, ma'am?
Well, Joe Baker records the meetings and it goes on YouTube, and I don't know what all this other stuff would be necessary for. And like with Ms. Hall, I agree, we need something so we can hear the people. Go out and buy a microphone, we can hear, Joe records it, we're fixed.
Okay. Okay, well, let's see if we can have a discussion with that contractor.
But that's what I found out, you know, on this.
All right. Next. No action. Yeah, no action. Approved payment. Next, discuss, approve, disapprove resolution to add workers' compensation coverage for jurors and election personnel. Authorize county judge to execute. Luana, what's
We currently do not have our jury or election personnel covered under workers' comp in case something would happen during those specific times. It's an option that we can add to our coverage for a nominal cost.
are they eligible?
Yes.
Are they considered employees for that?
They are under workers' comp, yes. They have a specific classification for those.
Have you ever had a juror get injured that you're aware of?
No.
All right.
I'm not sure
Then, I don't know if they're linked, but so the very next one, number 15, says, discuss, approve, disapprove resolution to remove optional workers' comp coverage for our volunteer first responders, EMS volunteers.
In the past, our EMS has operated under paid volunteer system. Now we are fully staffed and they are considered employees of the county. So there's no need to have our volunteers listed and pay for that coverage when we no longer have volunteers for EMS. They are all full-time employees.
So these no longer exist?
Correct. At this point in time, they do not. So
If
we need to.
they do not exist, there should be no reason to carry that policy.
Correct.
And I cautioned Luana with that though, but I asked her if something ever changes where they do have to have, you know, volunteers, that we could add that, she suggested to.
Right, we can add it back.
We need to make a motion on 14.
How much money are we talking about for 14?
On 14, it costs in the area of $3,000 a year.
The EMS budget says $4,250. Would that be?
No, we're talking about the jurors.
For the jurors.
For the jurors, I do not know, I don't have a quote on that, but it will be nominal just because we do not have many county jurors and elections that involve It's based on the amount of compensation that they're paid.
Okay, before we vote on this, could we get the number?
Okay?
I hate to say we'll do it until I actually know what the number is. Is that all right with you, Commissioner?
Yes, we can do that.
All right, and then 15, do we have a motion on that to, go ahead.
I'm going to motion, we approve number 15 as presented.
Second.
Authorize the judge to
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, carries. Okay, 16. Discuss, consider, establish pursuant to section 251.154 and section 545.355 Texas Transportation Code that the Commissioners Court of Karnes County, Texas on the 11th day of March 2014 held a public hearing to hear public comment regarding a proposal to establish maximum prima facie reasonable and prudent speed limits on all county roads maintained by the county. As a result of this hearing, the County Commissioners of Karnes County, Texas establishes a speed limit on county roads in Karnes County, Texas to be set at 30 miles per hour with the following exceptions. The following roads are in residential areas and qualify for a speed limit of 20 miles per hour. A speed limit of 20 miles per hour was set on the following Karnes County roads. These are in the following residential areas. And there's a listing here. A, Hobson, you've got several county roads listed. Sestahova, several county roads listed. Santa Maria, Gillette, and then also County Road 189, near and dear to my heart. I live on it. From the intersection of FM 626 west 1.2 miles. And County Road 160. Brian, what do you want to tell us about these?
Judge, we've conducted a public hearing as noted here, and for the commissioners' benefit, I'd like to comment. We had a lot of comments from the public at that public hearing, and when I composed this list, I followed the request of all the citizens with two exceptions, and I'll point those out to you. And I've spoken with one of the gentlemen this morning, and he understands the reason. Under the code, we can only lower the speed limit to 30 miles per hour unless it's a residential area without conducting an engineering study to determine that we need to lower it lower than 30. We had two requests for areas that were not residential to be lowered to 25. And one of the gentlemen's here this morning, and he understands we're not going to do for 5 miles an hour an engineering study. I haven't spoken with the other person. We've discussed your request and one other request that they be set a little higher. We're doing construction on those roads, and we'd like to leave them at 30 until the construction is completed, and then look at moving them up to 45.
Okay.
And with that, Mr. Hancock has prepared an order. If the court approves this, I would ask that the order be filed with the clerk.
All right. We have a motion to adopt this order and approve it.
I'll make it. I assume that order just states each county road is.
Yes, it does.
It does.
I'll second that motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Oh, yes, sir.
Highway 125, 3 mile stretch between 239 and 124. My question, if the sheriff conceived it's feasible, to plant on private property, and your county attorney said it is with the owner's permission, would you be willing to, I'll get them driveway and hide in the bushes. You see what I'm saying?
I'm not sure. No, sir.
Okay. I've got a place on 125.
All right.
Once you drive in and you're off the culvert,
it's bushes on either side. If the sheriff finds it's feasible to have a car parked up there, enough traffic, and the county attorney says it can be done, I'm willing to do that.
So you just want a deputy to come down your
Just
road?
monitor
It is
the
feasible.
information. You just want to monitor that county road?
Yeah, if it's feasible.
you to give them a ticket.
Now, I've done the whole way of testing.
Well, first you have to test.
Is it legal? Yes, to park
Now, I've got a way of
on
testing itself on the county roads.
I have the same
I
problem.
take a cup of coffee, the plastic kind, put it halfway up. It doesn't slosh over, and the road's okay.
Okay. I think the sheriff will have to determine whether or not he can accommodate that.
We'll work with them, we can monitor.
I presume you can park on your property to monitor the speed limits if you allow them to. Okay? Are we done with this one? Is it approved, all right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Judge. While you're signing that, I'd like to comment that I appreciate all the work the commissioners and the sheriff and everyone has put in on putting this together, and I think it's a step in the right direction for the county.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Item number 17, we're circulating this, is approved bond for County Judge Richard Butler, Council Precinct 4, Fernando Rios, Tax Assessor Collector Brenda Yancey. Luana?
Those are our annual bonds. Carol has them here. They just need execution.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve item 17 as written.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I'll let
Number 18, approved donation of $250 to Sheriff Dwayne Villanueva office from El Nubi. Sheriff?
Judge and Commissioners Court, I just want to bring to y'all's attention that that donation was given to the sheriff's office, and we have to put it in agenda to advise y'all that it was given to us.
From the citizen? or-
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody want to move to approve?
I make a motion to approve the donation of $250 from the sheriff.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, El Nubi. You really have to be. Next, discuss, approve, disapprove, joint election agreement between Kennedy, City of, and Karnes County to administer, perform duties related to the Kennedy City May 10, 2014 general election. If approved, designate authorized official to sign on behalf of Karnes County.
Hi, I'm Karen Ochiella, I'm the elections administrator, and these are contracts just similar to what I brought to you guys the last time. I think I mentioned to you, and I know, Mr. Butler, you weren't here, but that we were going to get these two also. So the city of Kennedy is asking us to actually hold their election for them, to do all of the duties for them, and so just anytime I enter into this type of an agreement, I need to have approval so that the contract can be signed by somebody from Commissioners Court.
Payment, it's in charge.
Yes, the contracts, saying we charge them for everything. It's really pass-through billing for everything. And I've already explained to them they need to tell me how much they want to pay their election workers, and that's what we'll pay them, and they'll pay us right back. And then we also charge an administrative fee of 10%. We charge them to utilize our equipment. We charge them like a lease fee to utilize the equipment. I charge them if I go do training, for their judges or, anything like that. It's basically pass through, like I said. And then this will allow them to also work through, for me to work with CART on their behalf, which kind of saves all of the entities money because I join them all together and then they're able to, get their ballots and everything printed on, under one big contract instead of each one contracting separately.
I'll make a motion to approve item.
Karen, it's not got anything to do with Karen,
Yes, sir.
not got anything to do with the election for the runoff between the,
No, sir, all of these elections are on May the
That's
10th.
the 10th.
Okay.
And so, and,
May
yeah,
but some, okay, because I had a phone call, someone concerned that it was gonna be for that too.
no, that's on May the 27th.
I make a motion to approve item 19 as written.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those are the contracts, and I needed to know who was going to be authorized to sign, or you're going to authorize.
We'll
the judge.
authorize the county judge to sign.
You need them signed?
Please.
No, I'll get you a stamp and just initial.
I'll get copies to your office. And you want just copies, right? Copies. I'll get you a copy. I didn't want to waste paper again this time. And there are two originals, one for us and one for them, obviously.
Number 20, you're still up.
Yes, sir.
Discuss, approve, disapprove election equipment contract between Kennedy ISD and Karnes County to lease equipment and hard supplies and ballot programming, part of the Kennedy ISD May 10, 2014 school board and chapter 41 election. If approved, authorize to designate authorized official to sign on behalf of Karnes County.
Same thing again, well, let me just say first of all that my name is spelled wrong on both of them, and I just caught that anyway. It's okay, I'm just.
It is Opiella, not Opiella.
Opiella, yeah.
Okay.
On this particular contract, the school is just using our equipment, and I'm doing the training of their judges, and so, again, charging for the leasing of the equipment, as well as the Hart Inner Civic doing all of the programming and getting them the ballots that they need, and then also charging for my mileage, as well as I just put a $25 fee for any day that I go to do the training, and then my mileage as well, so there's no cost to the county.
Okay, any comments, Commissioners?
I'll make a motion to approve item number 20, election equipment contract between Karnes City ISD and Karnes County,
Kennedy ISD, I'm sorry.
Karnes County, and conduct the election on May 10th and allow the county judge to sign.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So much.
Bill, thank you. All right, on to item 21, consider act, county department heads, elected officials participating in workshop with Mary Ann Science Thompson of the Texas Association of counties on developing job descriptions for county employees. Workshop to be held in the tax office building on April 17, time to be determined.
I just wanted to get the commissioners to approve this so that we can have all the department heads come in and start writing job descriptions for the employees. We don't have any right now, other than what maybe when we're hiring someone in our own office, kind of decide what they need to be doing. That way, when we're trying to do a salary for the upcoming budget, we can maybe talk to other offices, like yours, for instance. You have several administrator assistants in there to see what they actually do compared to what our employees do, and maybe be more fair on the salaries that we would be offering. So I just want Commissioner's support to approve for us to do this and to allow the elected officials to participate in this. Because right now we don't really have job descriptions.
So this workshop will help teach you how to
Yes.
make those descriptions?
Yes, yes,
Fulfill
give us a
your
guideline on,
employees.
yes. And that way when we go out and talk to other businesses and what they're paying their assistants or their clerks, it kind of gives us an idea, well, this is what ours do, and this is what yours do, and we can maybe be more fair in the salary.
And this will take place here?
In my office,
Okay.
yes.
Mary Ann is the TAC representative that takes care of all the human resource.
Yes.
She's our representative from the Association of Counties.
Yes, and I have her penciled in for that day, that's why I looked specifically on the 17th.
I'll go ahead and move we approve number 21 percent.
I second.
All in favor? .22, Texas A&M Ag-Life Extension Service, Karnes County and Karnes County Treasurer Office would like to request the Karnes County Commissioners declare April 2014 as County Government Month and April 14, 2014 is County Government Day.
Well, first, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, but I'm Megan Dennison. I'm the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent here in Karnes County.
Okay.
And Jared Elwine is here with me today. Actually, he's our Ag and Natural Resources Agent. But I visited with Mr. Dupnik previously and the court. Extension has this program called Keys to the Courthouse that's designed for 7th graders. And we were interested in having our county council officers go into the schools and just give a presentation to the 7th graders at each campus to teach them a little bit about what county government is, why we have county government, what the different people that make up county government do, and then also they would gain some knowledge for themselves because that's not really common knowledge for 7th graders. Anyways, we have put together some dates. I wanted to visit with you after if you're willing to proclaim this as County Government Month and our County Government Day. But we also want to invite you all to be participants when we go to the schools. That hasn't been finalized. I plan to meet with Mr. Dupnik this week and come up with some secure dates for that and a secure idea of exactly what our mission is. But I also had the idea to maybe have like an open house, and you can.
Yeah, April is National County Government Month for the entire United States. Karnes County has never done that, to my knowledge. Maybe they've done it in the past, and maybe people have been here longer than I have, and we just thought it would be a good idea just to introduce it into the school system for starters as a curriculum like the Ag Life has, and also have a day where they can come into this building. We've never had an open house in here. Have all the elected officials, even though you're not in this building, maybe set up a table along the way, have it from 4:30 to 7:30 in the evening, have it open to the public to come in, meet the new county judge, have them come in and say, hey, we're trying to move this county forward. It's a time for change, it's time to move on, and let's have a little group gathering together and let them kind of figure out, know what we do as elected officials. Also, Megan is also, we kind of talked about possibly having, like, I said hot dogs, but she wants to be nutritious.
Well, that was a great opportunity for Extension to get some educational programming out there as far as wellness and health goes.
And we may ask, for donations from the elected officials to purchase whatever she needs to for that day. I know it's kind of short notice, but we really needed to talk about this and get this on here. And then in January, we'll talk a little bit more about it for April of next year.
Do you have an idea on what day you're talking about?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. So the open house, I think that
April 14th.
was a Monday
The
for
Monday.
April 14th. And then the programs for the 7th graders would be sometime the week of the 14th to the 18th. Tentatively, I'm flexible. That's just kind of what I had come up with so far.
And you're talking about having one or more county commissioners or me or somebody go to the school and...
Absolutely. I for sure will be there, and my council officers will be the ones to present the program to the students. But once we can get some definite dates and information sorted out, then I'm going to extend the invitation to you all to be present. Maybe one of you at a time, maybe all of you. I mean, it's up to you. Maybe you could just speak for 5
Would
minutes
be
or so.
taking place in how many schools? All the schools?
In the 4 schools, yes, sir.
4 schools.
Yeah, and my idea is that it would just be about an hour's presentation. In a perfect world, I'm thinking that we could have the council officers, set up sort of like commissioner's court. They will each have their own role, but instead of holding court in front of the 7th graders, they can each talk about what the different positions do and just explain that, so that the youth kind of have a better idea of what goes on.
Well, sounds like a worthwhile project. I wish we had a little more time to try to think of what roles we could play, but I'm sure we'll do what we
Well, and
can.
I think initially we had just, when I spoke with Mr. Dupnick, I wanted to utilize my 4-Hers, but, we just would like for you to be present if you have time.
Sure.
So.
And this came up, I saw this on the TAC website. We've never have, as Vice said, we've never have done nothing in Karnes County. I don't, and you've heard the debates and stuff, people don't know who their elected people are. So it gives a chance for everybody to come in and meet. And plus, we could be mentoring some of these kids, maybe one day to step up and take over.
Right. They are our future.
I think it's I really support it.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve as presented. Number 20.
She does have a proclamation too to sign that we can get to the paper to get also.
Do I have a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And I will get with all of the elected officials and we'll plan everything for that Monday from 4:30 to 6:30. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll get a copy for you guys.
Thank you. 24, discuss action, Karnes County Courthouse Annex North Parking Lot Pay Application and Change Order Number 1, Upgrade Parking Lot Striping.
Is it possible, I have all of my papers in a little bit different order since some of these last numbers, can we go out of order on those? Is that
I
possible?
don't have a problem, go
Be
ahead.
faster for me since I already have them in this order.
What's next?
27 is the next one that I have.
Okay. Discuss action, Karnes County Courthouse Phase 1A recap for change order number 2. Added support columns necessary due to failing brick columns. Hayward Baker remobilized due to failed, it says exciting, I think it's existing brick columns. Deleted grade beams and walls and basement to open up the space. Unit price reduced for interior excavation. Added openings in existing basement walls. Refund of remaining hardware allowance, $551. Change order number 3, foundation wall concrete caps required due to failing brick foundation wall. MEP sleeves required through existing basement walls. Steel support needed to louver opening. Unit price for repointing masonry and cranks discovered below grade, $14,144.53. Okay.
Yes, sir. So typically when you use the word change order, the owner thinks that this is something that's going to cost them money. But in these cases, these are all change orders that actually are zero cost change orders to the county. They're actually giving credit back to the county. When we started this courthouse project, there was a contingency of $87,000. Typically, when you're looking at a project like this, doing historical reconstruction, you run into a lot of different items that you don't know about. And that is the case. And that's why we have a construction contingency. So we started out with an $87,000 construction contingency, and a recap of change order number 2, actually, if you look on the second page, takes that construction contingency from the original $87,000, which is in this middle column right here, to $87,151. So in the areas where we've had to spend money because we ran into things that we didn't foresee, we actually were also able to keep our eyes open and look for any cost savings that would help offset that, and that's what we've tried hard to do throughout this project. For example, there were three brick columns that when we started shoring up the foundation, they started crumbling, and it became a life safety situation. We actually had to stop work in that area. And in order to keep the project moving, we worked with the contractor to rework where they would actually do the grout injection, and we moved over to another part of the building so that we could keep the contractor there working while we figured out what we're going to do to shore up those columns. So the first couple items there, you'll see $12,000 is what it costs to put 3 new concrete columns in. The contractor and the architect and myself looked at possibly being able to delete some grade beams in the basement that it looked like we weren't going to have to end up. There was an optional, more economical way to handle the situation. We were able to save $5,000 there. We did need some more openings in the foundation walls as the architect worked with the MEP engineer on the routing to try to keep some things out of the main area off to the sides to allow better maintenance in the future. But then we were also able, that was a $9,000 ad, we were able to save $10,000 by deleting basement walls and putting in columns, which actually was a benefit because it also opened up that corridor. Now, Haywood Baker was your grout injection contractor. When the columns started crumbling, we moved them to another area to start working. In the meantime, we worked on getting an immediate shoring contractor out here to shore up to make the building safe. Getting those guys out here took a while, and by the time we were able to shore up the building, Haywood Baker, they were finished doing all of the work they could do. So we had a contractor lined up to come up and shore out, and then he backed out and he didn't come out. So Haywood Baker hung around for about a week because we were supposed to be short. It was going to be $18,000 for him to leave the job and come back, but it was only, I want to say $1,200 for each day he stayed. At the end of that week, we realized the shoring contractor wasn't coming, and instead of him charging us for the week that he sat here plus the remobilization, we were able to negotiate with him just for the remobilization. He didn't charge us the $10,000 bill that he was adding up while he waited for us to get shoring. So again, we were able to negotiate the best deal for the county on that remobilization for Haywood Baker. The reduced interior excavation, when we sat down to negotiate this project with the contractor, there were a number of things that were unknown. Under the ground, we actually dug out around your entire courthouse, and inside the entire basement, we dug down 5 to 6 feet. And the architect had in the project to repoint and repair all of those footings based on what they could see above ground. But the point was that we didn't know what the condition of those were underground. So since you don't get as much money back usually when you ask for credits later in the project, what we did is before we signed the contract with the contractor, we told them we want part of the contract to be, you give us our unit price now for how much money you're going to give us back for every square foot that we don't have to do that work once it's exposed.
because at this time, we didn't know, it could just be a little bit or it could be a lot. So we made sure that he gave us the best credit possible, we checked that out, and that's how we ended up with, in this particular one, an $8,000 credit, because once we looked at how much interior excavation had to be done, we were able to reduce that. Part of the reason it was in the original scope is because THC wanted it in there, but they also agreed with us to work this unit cost out to help save money in the future. Then on the hardware allowance, we had a $371 credit.
Can I comment on that?
Yes, sir.
On the excavation, that was, if the mortar was soft in there and you could scratch it and it crumbled out like sand, they had to repoint it and scratch it out and replace it. Okay, and it was hard enough, that's where we got the $7,900.
So in the end, this, even though it says it's a change order, it's a zero cost change order, you'll look at your original contract sum is $1.8 million, your sum after the change order is $1.8 million, and your contract did not change. On the second page, you'll see your contingency went up from $87,000 to $87,551. On change order number 3, and I gave away, I think I gave somebody 2 copies. Do you have your, there's no way I can go through all that in my head. Both of those change order number 3. Okay, thank you. Okay, change order number 3, again, as we went through the, as we uncovered inside the building, we found out some of your brick foundation walls were crumbling. There were cracks in them and they were crumbling. We had to end up putting a concrete cap on them, which cost $2,800. And we needed some additional MEP sleeves to get some of the MEP future chilled water lines out of the main basement area and over into the side areas to develop more room in the basement main corridor for future work. We needed some steel for an exterior louver opening because of the condition of the brick that was discovered after the fact. But then we also got $36,000 credit for reduced repointing work. So we got the $8,000 in change order number 2 for reduced excavation, and then we got $36,000 credit for the repointing that did not have to be done. And that was all based on the unit cost we negotiated at the very beginning. We had a column in corridor 101 that had to be repaired. It was crumbling. We had some cracks that were discovered. The contractor was, the masonry contractor came back and he had a price that he was charging for some different repairs he had to do, and we negotiated with him on what was reasonably inferred based on the documents, and then what were cracks that were beyond what they could reasonably infer. In other words, they were larger than anything that you could see because they were covered up. And so we only paid him for the cracks that were large enough that that they were beyond what he could have reasonably inferred. We had a parge coat on some concrete footings that we needed to do. So in this particular case, you got an add to your contingency of $30,000. We also had a conduit cable repair. So these are different items that add up. When you look at the second page, your contingency now has gone from $87,000 to $101,144. The last document I wanted to show you is where we are today, because at the end of change order 3, we don't process these change orders every time we have a minor item because you would have so many of them. We lump them together as long as we're just using our contingency money. We are not adding anything to the construction costs. And you'll see on change order 3, again, your construction costs stayed the same. Where we are today, if you look at the next page, is our allowance activity report. Our contingency allowance, again, started at $87,000. We were at $101 at the end of change order number 3. And at the end of what we're going to be putting on change order number 4, we will be down at about $89,000. And as I presented to you at the end of last month in my recap to you, we hope to give you all back your $87,000 or very close to your $87,000 at the end of the project, which is almost unheard of on a type of projects that you're looking at here. With the number of items that we ran into with structural problems and crumbling bricks, brick columns, etc., there were so many unforeseen items. We expected to use that $87,000 contingency, but instead we're going to be giving that back. It appears. We're doing our walkthrough on April the 7th, so I don't see anything else happening. There's one more credit on here for some welding that we worked up a different way to weld some plates that actually resulted in a little bit of a credit to the owner. So we're going to be right at about 87 to 89,000 credit back to the owner. It appears by the end of the project.
And that's been a permanent.
Yes, sir.
In spite of some of the additive change orders that have had to be done, where there's been additional work, you've been able to keep the contingency fund intact and not spend that money by making modifications to the work that they're actually having to do. There's been some modifications, like reducing the amount of point work and things like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Finding areas that just look like we could do it more effectively, working with the contractor and always asking him, is there an easier way to do this? Can you save us some money if we do it a different way? And working with them. So yes, sir, we've been able to offset any of these unknowns with credits for the county.
You're gonna still end up with the same quality structure.
I'm sorry?
You'll still end up with the same quality
Oh, yes,
structure
sir.
at the end of the day.
Most definitely.
One thing in particular, down in the center of the courthouse is the hallway, right below that, there's equipment room, all the way down there. They had a concrete wall designed in that, right down that, beside the brick. Well, we put columns in, the piers in there, and we put a beam right on top and left it open to the brick, so we have about 4 feet more space in that equipment room in the bottom there, because we left those walls out and put beams in. And we got credit for that,
Okay.
which is just as good a design. That's an example.
Any discussion?
And then I did include your monitoring report. I went ahead and took, every month we're monitoring the movement of the building. It's a full year that monitoring goes on. And I highlighted for you so you could see any movement that's over 0.3 feet, which is up to at 0.4, you're at a half an inch. So anything that is moved a half an inch or more, we've documented for you, and you can see it's mainly in the southeast part of the building, and the engineer is still evaluating whether or not we need to do any additional grout injection there. But my understanding is it's the way that the performance specification is written, the contractor will have to come back and do that without any additional cost to the owner. So we still haven't decided, because when you look at this report, I did two things. One thing is I circled any changes this month so that you could see. Sometimes it'll go up 0.1, but then it'll go down 0.1 the next month as it moves and settles. And if you look at each report, you'll see we have a lot less changes this month, and every month the changes of the movement is reducing. And then overall, once it settles, then the engineer needs to look at it and say, okay, do we want to push it back up a little bit more in this area or stabilize it more, or do we need to? So we're still working on that, but I want to give you a report so you can see, the building is definitely stabilizing and achieving what needs to be achieved. So then,
Do you believe that any additional modifications, like you have to raise it up a little bit, that would be something that's at the contractor's expense?
yes, sir, because the specification is written such that they have to stabilize the structure so that the movement is within a half an inch or less. And so that's why areas that are over a half an inch, and it's performance required, so he will have to come back and achieve that performance. But the engineer has to decide if we even want to touch it anymore once we see where it is, because we may not want him to come back if it just stays right where it is now, because there could be more potential problems if we don't need it. So the engineer will have to tell us.
Does the engineer believe that the amount of settlement that we've seen appropriate?
Yes, sir. So far, he's been very pleased with the results that we've seen, especially, the entire area except that one little last quadrant is showing very stabilized. So the entire project team is pleased, but that's why we continue to monitor for a year. I believe August is the last report we get from them. So we're not, we still have another 6 months or so to monitor. So the next item that I have.
On 27, do we have a proposed change order that might have been executed, or has it been?
Yes, sir. Change orders number 2 and 3 have been issued, so we just need you to approve those credits that you're receiving back to the.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make it on item number 27.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So then I think we can go on to the parking lot. I have the parking lot next for you, which was 24. Yes, sir. So I'm going to give you the original if we can, when we vote to sign.
Thank you.
Okay, this is, well, I am out of order still, so this is substantial completion certificate. So that's right, I'll hand that out and we'll go on to, here is your application for payment number 1. On this project, we actually only had one application for payment because the contractor was substantially complete so quickly that he didn't have a draw-in until he was going to be substantially complete. So we have one pay application, and y'all really, typically we don't do these as separate items, but since we're doing all 3 of these together, the change order, the pay application, and the substantial completion, I went ahead and brought the pay application also. So here is a change, that's another original after the court makes their decisions. So your parking lot is substantially complete and you are using it, so which is why we need to give the contractor their substantial completion certificate. Once the owner receives beneficial occupancy of your work, the contractor gets the substantial completion. There's a punch list that that they need to work through. On the pay application number 1, you'll see the original contract amount was $145,233, and the change order that we have on this project, this one is an additive change order. However, when you look at the benefit of it, it made a lot of sense to do this for the county. It just so happens that the contractor that did this work, his specialty, what he used to do before he was in, a general contractor, is he worked for a striping company for parking striping. And the original documents had the same parking striping that we have for TxDOT and City of San Antonio. There's just like a standard out there. And it doesn't include sandblasting, it just includes water blasting, and it doesn't include sealing. And as we went back and forth, the contractor recommended, he said, for $1,400, I can extend your striping life by up to 6 times, depending on what the traffic is. Of course, everything's dependent on your traffic. But say your original striping was going to last, 6 months and start fading, this would last up to 6 times that. The original striping cost was $3,100. So for an additional $1,400, we could get that up to 6 times result. Even if it only lasted 1 time more, it still would be better because it would cost you another $3,000 to restripe versus $1,400 for the extended wear. So there was money still in the allocated budget to do this. Well, it's based on the wear. This is the problem, is you don't have it, and I tried to do this, but they didn't get this done for me. I said, well, go ahead and stripe me one without your new way, and then let's stripe it your other way and let's see how they wear. But that even wouldn't tell you exactly, because what if more people park in the one area than the other area? So no, sir, it's not guaranteed, but the investigation that we did, it showed that this truly was a value for the county in the end. And it does have to do with how much wear.
It's already in place now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Why wasn't the striping addressed in the first overall contract?
It was, but it was just, we did your standard. The civil engineer said he used his same standard stripings that the city uses and TxDOT uses. And the only reason really this came up is because this guy used to do this as a profession. And he said, hey, I know a way that for a little bit more money, I can extend the life 6 times. My civil engineer has always just used the standard spec. So it really was just because this is what this guy did for a profession. He recommended it, and it made a lot of sense to do it.
How come we didn't finish it to the highway?
We put $165,000 in the budget, and I didn't think we could get it done to the highway. But we happened to get it done.
This is the amount budgeted.
Why didn't we do
They're asking us to cut everything.
So on the 3 items, we have the substantial completion that needs to be signed, and we have the punch list the contractor's working on. We'll come to you when it's finally complete. We still have 5% retainage until then. And we need the change order signed, and then the pay application, really, you already have the pay application. Right? Yeah, so. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
I have a motion on 24.
I'll second it.
All in favor? The other item 25 is discussed, and she's already discussed it. The substantial completion and final payment. Now, I assume final payment, we still have retainage we're giving back, or?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we have
Okay.
5% retainage until they finish all of their punch lists. We'll walk through, make sure everything's done, and then we won't pay them until everything's completed for the contract, as well as all of their closeout documents, their, release from the bond and surety, and just all that paperwork that goes with it.
What is left to be completed, Lorraine?
I have a short punch list. It's not a lot, but they need to finish cleaning up and putting the topsoil in, which what they have done. There's a crack where the flume is coming from the building into the parking area. It's already cracked, and so we need to repair that. They need to paint your ramp needs to be stained a contrasting color as you go down. It's not required by TAS anymore, but we do that just because it's a liability. It's a better way to do it. Off the top of my head, those are the main items. There's some expansion joint sealant that needs to go in, a few other items.
Okay. Number 25, do I have a motion on that?
We approve the 25.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Permit. Okay. No, item number 26.
They get all that columns reported and everything? All the piers
all-
have been reported.
The piers have been reported. The piers have been reported. We're still working on putting the transfer beams in. So, thank you. We are still working on putting the transfer beams in, and just give this to as I presented last time in court, the jail project ran into a problem with the performance of the concrete on half of our piers. The fix that the structural engineer came up with that would still give you the same quality of project and not compromise in any way, shape, or form was to put in 2 piers for every failed pier, and then to go back in with transfer beams that sit on top of those 2 piers, and then those 2 piers with the pier in the middle is chipped down. The 2 piers, the 2 new piers plus the transfer beam now support the beam that runs perpendicular that was originally going to sit on the 1 pier. So all of the new piers have been placed, and the transfer beams, the first set of transfer beams have been placed. We have 2 more sets of transfer beams that are still being placed. Now, when this occurred, naturally, it did affect the schedule. I have been working with the contractor to come up with a recovery schedule, and at this time I would like to present that to you. The original project, with half of our piers failing, it's essentially we put another whole set of piers in the project. And then with the problem with getting concrete, it hasn't gotten any better. And as a matter of fact, on March the 17th, the contractor had concrete scheduled to come to the site. They drilled 15 piers, and then at 5:30, Alamo said they can't bring the concrete. And when you have piers, you cannot let a pier sit overnight. It has to be drilled, and the steel go in, and it has to be poured that same day. So the contractor had to turn around and backfill all of those piers, and then re-drill them again the next day or the day after when they did get their concrete. So this concrete, it has been a huge problem for this project. I believe these are extenuating circumstances. The contractor worked very, very diligently. As soon as they saw that the breaks were looking like they were not going to make it at 7 days, they started putting into action, how do we fix this? They didn't wait for 21 days hoping the piers were going to cure out. They could have, possibly. I mean, nobody thought they were, but it's possible. Anything is possible. So the worked diligently to be able to make up as much time as possible and to not sacrifice the quality in any way, shape, or form. And the contractor and I looked at their original schedule and the recovery schedule. They have made up a lot of the time, but they can't make up all the time. It physically is not going to be able to be done. And with the situation that we ran into and the continuing situation with the concrete, in order to start and let the contractor go ahead and finish this project with keeping our quality assurance and our quality control going, I would like to recommend giving the contractor 45 days extension to the project schedule, which is from October 20th to December the 6th. The actual lost time is over 66 days because we should have had all of our piers done starting on our regular beams and foundation on January 24th. It's March 31st and we're still not there. So the 45 days is not all of the days that have been impacted, but they're getting as aggressive as we possibly can on this project. It's a reasonable amount of time to be able to finish this project and not run into quality control. I want the contractor and the subcontractors to be able to work as quickly as possible to give you the very best quality, but not try to make up a day and miss something because we're trying to make up time and we run into a problem. You know, part of the reason we have the concrete problem is because Alamo couldn't keep up with the schedule, so they found another concrete contractor that was able to supply concrete. They showed the mixed result, they showed the test. They didn't make it. You know, if we had stayed with Alamo, we actually would have been ahead. However, we were losing time.
Wouldn't we have lost additional time?
We were losing
In other
time.
words, we were losing time because Alamo wasn't making deliveries
Yes, sir.
when we wanted it. And then to try to make up for that shortfall and Alamo's problems with being so late in delivery, they went to another source.
Yes, sir.
The contractor did.
Yes,
And
sir.
this is Watson over in Cuero.
Yes, sir.
And then our concrete turned out to not pass.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so then, not only did we have the problem, the continuing delay problems with Alamo, we had to actually drill out the stuff that Watson laid, or do something
Abandoned
with
it, yes, sir.
Right.
So what I don't want to do, I don't want to finish this job with anybody trying to make up time that can't be made up, and we sacrifice potential quality control. I'm on the job every week. I look at everything very closely. Your general contractors out there, you know, every day, but we can't, you know, see everything. If somebody tries to hide something as they're trying to hurry up and get finished, we may miss something.
I don't want to accelerate it.
It's,
I don't want to accelerate the job. I wouldn't think anybody does. I guess the only question I had, and I think that speaking to one of the other commissioners that it's been discussed, is with the sheriff's department to make sure that there's nothing about that 45 delay that's going to work particular hardship on them. He's there, Sheriff.
No, you talk about it for us, just so we all have-
That will not
No, sir. No,
be
sir.
a problem for you.
No, sir.
Is there a penalty for being over?
Yes, sir, which is why we're doing this now. There's liquidated damages at $750 a day.
Times, so during the extent of the days, right?
Yes, sir, but when we give them a change order, that means we're not going to start collecting liquidated damages until after December the 6th. And then the contractor's not asking for more general conditions. I mean, he's going to be on the site an additional 45 days, but we're not paying him any more money. We're just doing that time, just to give them the room to be able to do the quality job they need to do.
I wonder whether or not, if push came to shove and we tried to cram those liquidated damages down on him, whether he might actually assert this was force majeure. That it's an unanticipated problem that he had no control over and couldn't really avoid. So I personally, I mean, nobody likes to see a project delayed, but rather than accelerating it and having a contractor accelerating and probably looking for ways to make up the money or cut back on what he's providing you, I'd just soon give him 45 days. Because I really don't think he could have anticipated this. I assume this is all because of all the oil and gas activity that Alamo is just, like a lot of other suppliers around here, just covered up.
Yes, sir.
And they run sharp.
He's the only
They
game.
can't provide you what they want, what they're supposed to sometimes.
Yes, sir.
The only comment I had on there, that this, I understand this isn't the contractor's fault. The concrete people are the ones that mixed the concrete wrong and came out low, ran
Yes, sir.
PSIs.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but on that, and I don't mind the 45 days, because of course, when someone is in a rush, they may hide something, and I don't want that. But those 45 days, if you put a pencil on the county's part, wouldn't we lose, what do we do? How many people are we gonna have that we could have had in our own jail, and we're gonna be paying out for those 45 days? Wouldn't we take that into consideration and put that as a county loss? And what are we gonna do about our loss? Because 45 days makes a lot of difference when we're housing inmates.
Yes, sir. And that's what the liquidated damages were for. But as the judge has stated, whether or not, if the contractor, if we don't give him these days and we get into a battle over it, that the contractor does have a good argument in his case that he could win them anyway. And I really feel like it's in the best interest of the county. It was $750 a day, depending on how many inmates you have. And yes, sir, there's a consequence there on when you can get the inmates in.
Sheriff, what's your average jail population?
Right now 29, but back to Commissioner Rosales' question. On that, we have the 30 beds at Geo, so we could fit them in there, because right now, at Geo, we have 16, so that's kind of what we're taking.
Okay.
The only ones that we'll have to take and pay for is females. Of course, we take them to Wilson, Atascosa, Livo County.
Okay.
That's the only problem that we
So
have.
with these
But
beds that we
with
have
the
here,
beds,
we'll cover it?
We're covered, yes, sir.
Good question.
Any other discussions? Anything else? Motion?
45-day extension contract extension. Okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
Do you have a change order on the jail?
yes, sir. I just handed you the copy because Commissioner Yower signs those when they don't
Okay.
add, if they don't change it to the construction contract. He signs those.
Got it.
So on the jail change order, we're looking at, again, it's a zero cost change order. You can see the original contract sum and the new contract sum does not change. If you look at the second page, again, we had several items that we were able to look at some value engineering on. Some of these we had started before the contract was signed, but they were going to take longer to figure out, and we didn't want to delay the start of the jail project until we could figure them out. So they're worked into this change order number one. For example, There was a different Sallyport gate operator that the contractor brought up, and the subcontractor has installed in a number of facilities. We checked it out. It's equal to what we specified. It was a savings of $6,000 just to do an equal that they handled. The precast was another area that we looked at. You have to look at 3 items to see, but it's a net credit. We reduced the sandwich panels from 12 inches to 10 inches, and then we changed some of the walls in the Sallyport for a savings of $15,000. There was an add of $8,000 because we had to go from 6 to 7 inch panels on the outside, because this particular precaster has 7 inch panels with aggregate and 10 inch sandwich panels. And it all has to do with their engineer and what they designed, and so we were able to have a net credit on that one of about $7,000. Texas Accessibility Standards has decided that on handicapped cells, even though your jailers can't be handicapped because of the nature of their job description, and they have never required this before from on any jails, they decided now on your handicapped cells they want a shutter down low. On the project, we fought it. They wanted a shutter down low on every single jail, and we fought it and got a variance to only have it on areas where your inmates are handicapped in those cells. And as a matter of fact, the jail commission is helping argue this case, and the inspector is going to be coming down to visit. The Texas Handicap Accessibility team leader is going to be coming down to look at your project when it's finished, so we can show him how unfunctional these doors are that they're making us put in, because they really are. They've never been in a jail before, and this is the first one they're going to make us put them in. But so it's going to pave a case for the future, and we did at least get a lot of doors to not have to have them. However, they're making the doors on the handicapped have these vision panels that have never been in before.
Explain to me the doors.
Okay,
Vision panel.
You have
Like a window?
Yes, sir. It's a small observation panel. So you have your cell, and on the cell you have up at 4 feet 2 inches. You have a 10 by 5 vision panel, and you have a shutter on it. And so you walk up and you look inside and you check, and then you close the shutter.
Okay.
When there's a handicapped person in there, and the jailer is the person that can't be handicapped. When there's a handicapped person in there, if he's down at his handicap height inside the cell, they want to give him the right to be able to, when the officer looks in, I guess say, open the shutter so I can see you, and the officer bends down and opens the shutter and looks. It's never been done before.
You're only gonna have cameras to
You have cameras, but there's vision required. Texas Jail Standards requires that you have visuals on site once an hour. You have to look. So you will pave the way.
It will have both panels?
It will have both, yes ma'am. And we could have put one long, big one, but then you have a big shutter that's very cumbersome, and the bigger your glass is, the easier it is to break. And so
Why
we
do you
did
have
put
to
two
have a
smaller.
shutter, just have it open?
Well, there's different reasons for the shutters. We don't have shutters on all of them, but you want shutters when they're the separation cells, where you don't want, they're supposed to be isolated. You don't want just all the inmates walking in and the people walking down, they just can see the guys. So there's not shutters on all of your doors. There's shutters only where they are required by the jail standards, or they're there for a reason to limit visibility.
Okay.
So
It's actual glass in the vision?
it's
not-
security glass. It's safety glass. So it's like a Lexan security laminated. But it's still, if you hit it hard enough, it won't ever break out, but it will shatter. It'll hit the lines. So you will be setting a precedent for the future, because I think once they see what they've made us do, they'll come up with a variance for it. At least I hope so. The jail commission hopes so also, because they tried to help fight it also. But it's a state agency and you have to comply. So then, because of that, we also went back to our detention contractor and said, okay, where can we save a little bit of money? So we were able to meet with the fire marshal and get a variance for the fire-rated glass in the corridors, because the security glass is so thick anyway. It's 3 different layers. You have a sprinkler system in the corridor, and you have a smoke evacuation system in your cells. And so we were able to eliminate, he agreed that with the combination of what we provided, the life safety was achieved, and the fire marshal gave us a variance there. We were able to save $2,300. And then we On the violent cell, we made it a little bit smaller, and the other subcontractors did not charge us to offset a wall. Sometimes one wall going down will cost less. We didn't offset it. They said, we'll just offset that wall for you without any charge. And the plumbing, all the people did offset their stuff. They didn't charge us, so we got to save $4,000 on our violent cell padding and still meet the jail standards. Another item on the security glass, again, was every single room, no matter if there was an inmate in it or not, a handicapped inmate or not, when we had a vision panel, they made us take it down to 41.5 inches versus the 44 inches, which we normally do, because again, the smaller the glass, it's easier to break a bigger piece of glass, but they required that on this one. They probably will keep that one, I don't know, but I think the vision panels they'll take that one away. Threshold monitoring, since we were able to save some money, the threshold monitoring was an additive alternate that we bid. It's a better system. In the violent cell, when you have a button, you've already got someone in there violent, already somebody causing a problem. When you have and you have to have an intercom because jail standards requires that communication. An intercom on the wall with a button where that guy's going to just sit there and hit it constantly, and then the staff's going to ignore him. Threshold monitoring is a little more expensive, but it's a better way to monitor it. We bid it as an additive alternate because of trying to keep the budget down. $1,900. What that is you can set the threshold so that there's a ceiling in the speaker, and when he yells loud enough, then it'll set the alarm off. But they can modify that so that if he's just sitting in there yelling, he has to yell loud enough to actually get their attention or make the alarm go off. So that was added in. We found a way the contractor actually, this was another item that during value engineering, they said we can save money if we do a voltage cable tray instead of conduit for your low voltage wiring. And so we were able to finish negotiating that credit of $4,175. The basketball goal, we had it mounted a little bit differently, and the contractor said, hey, if we just mount it a different way that they've done in other projects, we can save you $565. So overall, our ads were $16,000 and our credits were $32,000. So we're adding $16,000 to our $50,000 contingency. So our new contingency amount is $66,836. And I did also want to point out there were two items. Any of the other items that you see in here, they were either not used or they were no-cost items. But the demolition contractor had, there were a couple areas where they actually ran into things underground that, that were not expected to be there, additional chunks of concrete and things that they had to deal with. And it was to the tune of approximately $18,000 in one area and $14,000 in another that they were asking for more money, and we sat down with the general contractor and they just said, we're going to work it out, we're not going to charge you. So I just wanted to point that out because, with the not giving them the extension and not charging liquidated damages, they've actually, saved or actually not asked for about $25,000 to $30,000 worth of potential change orders that they could have come to us and we would have negotiated back and forth, but they just said, nope, we just want to keep going on this job and we don't want to ask for that money. So they're working very well with the county to try to reduce and eliminate any potential for ads on change orders.
Anything else in the question? For the motion?
I'll make it item number 28 as presented.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mitchell? 29 says present progress report for SB 1747. Running missile David Underbrink.
Thank you, Judge. I'll try to be brief. I need to give you some timelines. TxDOT has received our application, and I told Luana we have unofficially been officially informed that we've been approved for funding. And she kind of laughed at the analogy there, but we've not received written confirmation, and we won't until TxDOT goes through the process with all the counties that have applied. And I'm going to very quickly go over the time frame. But first of all, since you weren't here and weren't involved with it, the application process initially was February the 7th through February the 14th. There were a group of senators came together and said that's not giving counties enough time to get their applications together. Would you move it back to March the 7th through March 14th? We fortunately were one of those counties who had done our homework and were prepared to make our submission. So I appeared before the TxDOT hearing when they moved that time frame back and asked them to allow those counties who were prepared to submit an application between the February 7th date and the March 14th date. Because of overlapping time, and I won't go into all that, they agreed to allow us to submit a trial application so that they could test their system, our system, make sure everything was working. On February the 13th, we submitted an application. On February the 14th or 15th, we got confirmation back that if this were a real application, you would be recommended for funding. So we were in real good shape. We submitted a formal application on March the 7th. I received an email from Allison. You know who Jim Allison is, Allison Law Firm that represents through the Texas Association of Counties. You're familiar with it. Yes. We received an email from Mr. Allison advising that there were some 30-odd counties that had deficiencies in their application and would need to revise their application. And that the county judge would be notified if there were deficiencies. Because we had a vacancy in the county judge's office, I contacted Trent Thomas, who is the TxDOT coordinator in Austin that we work through. And I said, Trent, I don't expect you to tell me who those counties were that had deficiencies, but can you please tell me if I'm on that list or not? And he said, Ronnie, I will assure you, you are not on that list. So we had no deficiencies. The 14-day time frame for them to notify us has passed, so I know we have no deficiencies, that's for sure. Quickly, TxDOT has 14 days to review and notify counties of deficiencies. Those counties have 14 days to correct deficiencies and resubmit. Those 14 days don't necessarily have to run a total of 28 days. They can overlap. So we're somewhere at least 14 days out, but probably more like 20 days or thereabout. After TxDOT receives all the corrected applications, they have 31 days to review those applications and report back to the counties. And the reason I brought this up, in the rules and regulations, they've given themselves a window of opportunity that if they need more time, they can extend that 31 days up to 30 additional days. So we're in just a ballpark area, probably looking at the 1st of June before we receive an award from TxDOT. In doing our preparation, I've got an actual figure. We've been using the figure $7,163,000, but our real award at this time is $7,163,454. The good news is those counties that didn't qualify and didn't apply, that money will go back into a pool and be redistributed to the counties who did qualify. That figure right now stands at some $22 million. Just to do easy math, we should get approximately a 10% increase over the $7,630,000. So we're looking in general terms at an award of $8 million. And it should be available to the counties sometime in early June. And I've asked David to be here this morning so that we can give you a quick scenario of where we are with it. Do you have anything you want to add?
I think you pretty well covered it. But we have started in on looking at a couple of roads, 326 and 199 at the top of the list. We've gone out and went, Mike and Ronnie and I looked at those roads and started evaluating what needs to be done there. There's a bridge that needs to be widened on 326. So we can't expend funds without authorization. What Ronnie's talking about is authorization around June 1st. But as far as doing some preliminary looks, we can do that. So
They're supposed to start work on that bridge on next Monday, I believe. They've got the signs up where they're gonna close the road.
Mike, can you address that?
No, we have to get the detour route set to Commissioner's Court.
Okay.
So I have it on next agenda.
So they took the sign off.
Yeah, we're proposing on 14th. It'll be closed for a couple of months.
Thank you, because I was gonna move my equipment over there, so I wouldn't have to go all the way around. It's gonna be very inconvenient for me.
yes, sir.
I have one question. We don't expect to get permission to do this until June 1st, is that correct?
Something like that.
All right, so you can't design and have it ready for bid June 1st. It's going to take you after that, is that correct?
You can't authorize payment on a bill before you're authorized by TxDOT to spend money. So technically, we could do some things without billing you, because we've already got a contract with the county. But you just can't pay the bill before that, or else it won't be eligible for reimbursement. So if you want to be reimbursed for any of this, you need to pay the bill after you have authorization, which could be at the end of May, or it could be on
Would that
June.
be contingent on the invoice date, not just on when we pay it? Shouldn't all costs be incurred after?
They don't have rules for that, so I don't know if I can answer that.
That's how most grants work,
Yeah.
so I.
Well, this is not really a grant, though. This is money that's been appropriated, and the only thing that's up in the air is how much. I understand what you're saying, because I do a lot of work with grants. This is not a grant.
Plus that, we have 10%.
We have 10% cash match. Yes.
But your match doesn't match until it starts.
So if we get 8 million, we gotta match 800,000.
Yes,
That's right, and y'all have that.
and we don't, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I mean,
You've already set up 1.5.
we've already set up 1.5, it's already in the budget.
Yes.
And in reality, the way the TxDOT repayment works is we send a bill, say for an example, we have a $400,000 bill, we send them a bill, they pay 90% of it, we pay 10% of it. We don't reimburse TxDOT the money.
Right, they pay for it, right?
Yes, sir.
They write the check.
They write the check for 90% of the bill.
No.
They write
The county will pay
Pay
the
the
bill.
bill.
They
And
write
then
the check.
you'll take evidence that you paid it, submit it to TxDOT, and they'll give you 90% of that back. That's how it works.
And how long will it take to get that done?
They say a couple of weeks turnaround for the reimbursement.
They were saying at least minimum 2 weeks.
Good.
Hope that's true.
All right, well, appreciate your report. Any
Thank you.
questions? Thank you very
you.
much.
Thank you, guys.
32, payment of bills. What do we have?
Knowing you are the new kid on the block,
I am.
That will be your copy for your records. This will be the official copy after court votes to approve them. Each commissioner and judge initials, and then on the back pictures, place for the judge to actually sign.
Judge Butler, anytime you want to review bills, they are available in our office for review.
Okay.
And if you want to review them before court, you certainly are more than welcome to come over. On page 1, I will point out items of interest. About 2/3 of the way down, there's a payment to Hart InterCivic for $10,150. That is the additional e-poll books that were authorized so that all polling places would have the e-poll books during the elections. You go to page 3, halfway down is a payment to Karnes County Appraisal District in the sum of $22,722.87. That is our quarterly payment towards their operating budget.
you go to page 5 under capital outlay, all these are budgeted items, but I will highlight by project. The EMS facility, we are paying Daily Spears $4,345.90 for their work on that project. The 200 East Calvert project includes the spring cleaning that was done, vents, as well as the total overall building cleaning, grout cleaning, wall cleaning, etc. That totaled $2,790.80. The parking lot, as Lorraine mentioned earlier, the first pay app is $139,306.09. In addition to that, towards that project, we have a $2,403.33 expenditure to Lorraine for architectural fees. On phase 1A of the courthouse, we are spending $139,347.16. On phase 1B of the courthouse, it's $9,436.08. And on the jail project, $247,660.25. On page 6, there is a payment to Texas CompuFix under EMS expenditures for $6,536. That is for Toughbook tablets and scanners and keyboards for the facility. Most of that cost is Toughbooks for the actual units, for the people to actually file all the information on each run online rather than having to manually write it anymore.
Now it's also part of the strat.
I was going to say, they will be, we have received STRAC funds to help fund that. On page 7, there's an expenditure to S&P Communications out of the Sheriff's Department, $20,604.30. That is a combination of repairs on some radios as well as equipping some of the new vehicles. Page 11 and 12 are road and bridge expenditures. Total bond expenditures in this cycle are $341,334.89. Total expenditures this cycle, $1,236,874.79.
I'll make a motion to pay bills as presented.
I'll second.
All approved?
Aye.
President, I believe that concludes the business of the county for this meeting. I want to thank you all for your participation. Thank you for the very nice decorum we had here today, for your interest in the county, and for your patience with me. I'm sure this could have gone much faster, much smoother if I wasn't a newbie. But I appreciate all of that. And we look forward to having your attendance in the future. Thank you.
I second.
Second? Right, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.